make out every day if you can, and it doesn't have to lead to sex or to anything more.
It's a bummer when it doesn't.
Anyway, I mean,
this has already turned into a marriage counseling session. Greetings, all. Just spending a little time down in Florida, a little getaway. Just what the doctor ordered, just to get away from it all a little bit. Going back pretty soon to get back to work on a new record that's kind of in the beginning stages, but I'll be telling you a lot more about as time goes on. Very excited about it, unlike anything I've ever done before. Speaking of music and new music, just a reminder, I do have this new song out with my sons called Forget About the World. Came out a couple of weeks ago. I wrote it with all three of my sons, Brandon, Lucas, and Jesse. My son Lucas produced it. We're all on it together. Very proud of it. Getting some great feedback from you guys, which is really nice to read and hear about. And people are downloading it and streaming it and blasting it. That's what we want. So much fun to make music with my kids. It's just such a blast. I am particularly excited about today's episode of Stories to Tell because my guest is none other than my gorgeous, brilliant, hilarious, hot wife, Daisy Fuentes. During the pandemic, a few years ago, Daisy and I were as bored as the rest of you, and we launched our own podcast called Tequila Talk. And we did it for about a year. It was fun. We just sat around and had a drink and talked stupid shit. And Stories to Tell is a little bit of a takeoff on that, in that I share a cocktail with my guest, or a mocktail, as it may be. And I thought, I've got to have Daisy as a guest. And I think that Daisy is going to be my one recurring guest. But this is the first episode that she's appearing on. And we sat down and hung out at our house and talked about all kinds of stuff. And I think you're going to learn some stuff about Daisy Fuentes you never knew before. So sit back, relax, and check out this episode of Stories to Tell. Daisy Fuentes.
With me, Daisy Fuentes.
Don't miss it.
Don't miss it.
My guest today, look, it's Daisy Fuentes. Marx.
Cheers.
Cheers, my love. And it's the first guest I've kissed.
You better hope so.
How did that, do you remember how that tradition started? So Daisy and I have a tradition in the 11 years we've been together.
Yes.
Where when we toast, we kiss. Mm-hmm. It's a ritual. A bunch of our friends over the years have made fun of us for it. How long after our first kiss did this become a tradition? I don't remember the exact.
I cannot believe you don't remember the exact. Well, I don't remember the exact.
I mean, I do. I'm just seeing if you remember.
No, you don't. I know it was something that I started.
That
for sure.
That I know.
And it wasn't right away, because I was trying to play it very cool when when we first started hanging out. I was playing it very cool, but then once we got closer and we were clearly together, I started kissing you every time, and that kiss, when we were alone, would turn into a makeout.
Right.
And
it still does.
It still does. And we've kept it, and even, turned our friends on to the tradition, not with us, but with themselves.
We hang an upside down pineapple outside.
Because I think it's a great way to kiss your spouse. I think too many spouses don't kiss.
Yeah.
Like they did when they first started dating. And I think it's so important not to just kiss, like kiss hello and kiss goodbye. Like, yes, that's cute and that's sweet. But it's so important to make out every day if you can. And it doesn't have to lead to sex or to anything more.
It's a bummer when it doesn't.
Anyway. I mean,
this has already turned into a marriage counseling session.
But I think it's important. I think it's important to make out every 100%. Day, and I think it's important to have little traditions like that remind you that you're still that couple.
And it doesn't have to be a cocktail. I mean, it usually is.
Yeah.
We usually have a cocktail.
Well, if you don't drink, then yeah.
But even when we even when we have something else, usually we toast or we have a moment where
I cannot remember an instance when we have done a toast with anything other than. When do we not have a cocktail and toast? Water.
I guess on the rare times when we're going, we're going to take a few days off from,
Which I don't even know why we do that.
Yeah, it's stupid.
This is giving me such
flashback?
Lockdown vibes. Remember from our tequila talk?
So for those of you who have no idea about this, Daisy and I started a podcast during the pandemic called Tequila Talk. And it was basically this.
Yeah, it started because we were all on lockdown and we were all bored and we were all trying to find a way to keep each other motivated. So we started doing some Instagram lives and talking to people.
That's how it began. It began organically as an IG live. Yeah.
Yeah. We wanted to just kind of share that, and we got such a good response from it. I think people really at that time really needed to be in on a conversation. They really needed to and I love that we started it during that time, and I have such fond memories of it.
Yeah, and the people who did follow us and follow the podcast were passionate about it.
They really liked it.
And we would just basically sit for an hour or more and vent and bitch about things. And it was also it wasn't just that the pandemic itself was so trying and so frustrating and scary and all those things. Yeah. But there was just also the political climate was just disgusting, and people were showing their worst behavior on the regular, as they still do. But it was a nice little avenue for us to kind of connect with our followers and also just catch up. And so this is sort of like a new version of it. And I asked you to do this, but I want you to be my recurring guest. So every however many episodes.
And I'm very flattered because you get some really great guests.
Yes.
You've gotten some amazing names for your podcast. So when you asked me to do this, I was like, really? Me? Really?
Daisy
Little
Fuentes.
old me?
You're Daisy Fuentes. Marx. I still can't quite wrap my brain around the fact that even though we've been married for 9 years, it still blows my mind.
I know. It still feels kind of new to me too. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly when this is going to air, but we're just a week or two out of a hellacious beginning to 2025 here in LA. We were very fortunate that our home in Malibu is still there.
Yeah, which is really where we were locked down in that little house in Malibu.
Where we started Tequila
Talk. And so that house, I'm so grateful because it has so many great memories.
Well, that house was also, when we were there recently to finally get in and check it out, and we're so fortunate that it's still there and it's in pretty good shape compared to so many people we know who lost everything.
Oh my God.
That house and Malibu itself is such a huge part of our courtship and our history. But so now here we are. It's a very strange beginning to a year. It's almost 5 years ago. It's almost exactly 5 years ago that we started doing Tequila Talk and in lockdown.
There are a lot of similarities between what's going on right now and what was going on at the beginning of lockdown.
Yes.
Like the energy is strangely similar.
I agree.
The collective energy in the country.
Yes.
A couple of really just unfortunate, tragic things that have happened.
Yeah.
That have, I think, put everybody on edge. So the energy to me feels very
familiar.
Very familiar.
Yeah. However, and we've been talking about this privately, but what's really different is my reaction to it.
Yeah.
And I think yours too. Maybe not quite, we can argue about this, but I think that my reaction to it is even more opposite than 5 years ago.
Yeah, because you were very, very vocal about it. You were very upset about what was going on.
Yeah.
And since
then... And I still am. It's just how you digest it and how you allow it to dominate your... See, especially during the pandemic, what else was I going to do? But, read Twitter and...
Yes.
And react.
I think it's still important to know what's going on. Although, do we ever really know what's going on?
Yeah, what does
it really
informed
depends
even mean now?
Yeah, how do you even get properly informed?
Yeah.
We're all getting informed as to what we want to hear. And that's really tough. But
we've never had more access to information while at the same time the truth has never been more hard to ascertain.
Yes. Yes. So while I still want to know what's going on, I also want to disconnect from the toxic energy that it also brings.
Well, that's what I wanted to kind of launch with in our conversation today, especially for the people who happen to have followed us on Tequila Talk.
Yeah.
And I'll lead into it by, we watched... there's a podcast, I think it's called 10% Happier.
Yeah.
Dan Harris.
Yes. And
he wrote a great book, 10% Happier. Is it 10% Happier or 15% Happier?
10% Happier,
it's 10%
I think.
Happier.
And I think he did a documentary as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's interviewed everyone from the Dalai Lama to these incredible spiritual teachers. But he had on Ted Danson. Mm-hmm. And I think you and I were traveling a couple weeks ago when we were in London. And I noticed that, and I just, for whatever reason, started to watch a little bit of it. And I watched enough of it that I stopped and went, I need to watch this with Daisy. So we watched it together a few nights ago. And it's an episode, the episode with Ted Danson is worth watching for a lot of reasons. But the thing that I really keyed in on was this thing in talking about spirituality and outlook. Ted Danson said, whenever I'm worried about something or angry about something, I've trained myself to verbally out loud say to myself, and then you die. Yeah. As his correction, as his autocorrect. Mm-hmm. And it really resonated with us because we've been working on this for a while too. Because we do a lot of spiritual work on ourselves, on us as a couple, and just on our outlook being lighter and bringing less suffering and more peace. And so I'm asking, where do you feel like you are? Now, it's been 5 years since the pandemic. You and I have both experienced a lot. How are you feeling about your psyche and about the future and where we are right now?
I feel a bit calmer in regards to everything. Because like you said, having that perspective of how much longer do I even have to live? I'm getting older. Yeah, and yes, sure, we all can go at any moment. But there is something about being aware of your mortality that helps you live a little bit more in the present. And so the things that I've been working on for myself are really trying to stress less about things that don't matter. For example, and this is just a silly example, but tomorrow I had scheduled a hair appointment to do my base. And you and I were planning on going out and doing this thing, doing some shopping around an appointment that you have. And this appointment was already set.
Okay.
And this appointment was already set. So I thought, well, do I just not do the thing with you? You can go do your appointment by yourself and I do my... And then I thought, no, I am not going to continue canceling my life for little maintenance appointments. Like, I want to do my nails. I want to do my hair. I want to do the facial. I want to do all the little things. But when the day comes and I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm really glad I kept that hair appointment instead of going and spending the afternoon with my husband.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to be more aware of the things that matter. I'm becoming more aware of the things that stress me out and why I get stressed out. And in regards to that, I have come to the realization that usually when I'm stressed out or annoyed at something, it's because there's something that needs to be done that hasn't been done. Either something that I need to do that I don't want to do, and I'm stressing out about it, and it's causing some discomfort or anxiety or annoyance. And it's really not that bad.
Right.
It's kind of like just do the thing that is going to annoy you and don't let it go. So I've become much better at, sure, I still get annoyed, but I let it go much faster. And I try to not overreact. And this has been a practice. And I do believe that there are tests put out there for us every day. And I pass a lot of those tests. I'm aware of it a lot. And some of them I fail miserably.
Yeah.
But there will be another opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I am. I'm just a little bit more aware, I'm trying a little bit harder. I'm aware that it's a practice. I'm not being so hard on myself when I'm having a super crappy day.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you notice it? Do you notice that I'm trying to?
I do. And succeeding.
Be less of a bitch?
And succeeding.
Yeah. Sometimes, not always.
Yeah, no. Everybody. Yeah. If you try, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to succeed, but you're also going to fail. And you and I mean, one of the things that's really nice is that we are both on the same path. We're after the same results. We're after the same things so that we can offer checks and balances to each other.
How important do you think that is in a marriage?
To be on the same path? Crucial.
Really?
I do. I really do. I think that if I were wanting to learn more about myself, wanting to be a better person, wanting to, as my shrink always says, the only reason I exist in your life is to ease your suffering. So if the process of wanting to ease my own suffering and the path that I want to take to be the happiest I can be, the most productive I can be, the most valuable I can be, and to really squeeze out the most I can of this journey. If I'm spending that time with someone who is sort of like not on that page or is interested in entirely different things, I think that's tricky, don't you?
I think so. I mean, there has to be, I think it's important to keep your individuality and to do things that the other person may not enjoy doing, to keep your own identity. But I do think it's important on a certain level, like when it comes to values and when it comes to the important things, I do think that you have to be pretty much on the same page.
Yeah, but I mean, speaking to this, I mean, I think it's also, like in our case, there are rabbit holes you'll go down, either on social media or on YouTube, or where you're really interested in a topic or a point of view that just for whatever reason doesn't particularly resonate with me. And you'll do your thing.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing. Mm-hmm. But what I like is that we also have consistently, usually if something really resonates with one of us, it resonates with both of us. And we want to share it with the other person. Mm-hmm. And I think there's nothing more, people always ask about, what do you and Daisy do? Like when you're hanging out. And one of the things we hardly ever do is watch things.
Right.
Watch TV or watch movies. It's such a rare occurrence for us. What we usually do is this. We sit and
talk. I think it's so important to talk.
Yeah.
But you can't really, it's really difficult to sit around and talk with your spouse at the end of the day if one person has absolutely nothing going on and no personal interests, or if one person is completely involved in the other person's life, then what do you talk about at the end of the day? Like, I think that's why I think it's important to have something, even if it's something silly, even if it's about things that you saw on your feed while you were scrolling. Like, you've got to have some different interests so that you can fill the other person in on what you found out, what you learned, what you read, what you saw, and the other person has to be interested in what the other person has learned and wants to share. Because a lot of times people who don't have a lot of things in common, the spouses don't really care to listen to the other one as to what's important to them or what fascinates them or what they find interesting. And that's a problem too, I think.
Yeah. When I think about where you're at in this part of your journey with me and separately from me, it immediately makes me think about where you came from. And one of the things that I want you to speak on, and it's weird interviewing your wife because I know so many, if not all your stories, but I know a lot of them.
Definitely not all.
You definitely keep me in the dark about certain things. You're always sort of like throwing something out and I go, wait, what? You never told me that. When you were, even if it were in your teens or if it was in your teens or early 20s, was there an event of some kind or a life lesson that happened that still resonates with you now, that's helped form who you are even now? Is there something that comes to mind where you learned something or somebody said to you this, or there was an experience where you went, that is a life lesson I'm never going to forget?
There were so many things, so many little things. And I'm sure there's one particular one that I can't think of right now, but there were a lot of things because I came from another country. I didn't speak English when I came to this country. I was shy.
You are legal, right?
I am now. I'm Mrs. Marx.
Because if there's a knock at the door at this point, we might be like...
at this point, I'd be willing to go. I'd be like, I'm down. Let's go. Where are you taking me? Mexico, let's go. Let me get my bag. Let's make a Cabo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We love it there.
No, I don't mean to make light of that, but
you have to.
Look.
You have to laugh.
You have to laugh because this is
Sorry, I
bananas.
got you off track.
So a lot of I learned how to kind of come out of my shell a little bit. I learned how to really pay attention because I was not aware of a lot of things. And so I had to pay attention to what was going on around me to try to fit in. And it is very important when you're young. It's very important to seem like you're fitting in or to adapt. And that's something that I always try to do. I always try to adapt to what's going on in life, to adapt to changes. And changes have never happened faster in our lifetime than they are right now.
No.
So I think that I learned how to adapt. I learned a lot about fashion when I started modeling as a teenager and started going into New York and hanging out with an entirely different kind of environment. I learned a lot. I was all of a sudden hanging out with people who were worldly, who had traveled a lot, who were very important names in fashion. And I kind of learned how to come out of my shell there.
Were you were a sponge though, right?
Yeah, I still am.
I know you are. But I mean, even back then, wasn't that a tricky thing to be so young? I mean, I was in my way too, but I think it's kind of unique because when you're young and your life is starting, let alone your career is starting, right? I think it's so easy to get caught up in yourself so much and what you're doing and what you want that you miss and ignore some valuable lessons you're just oblivious. You're so wrapped up in your own head.
What was that lesson for you?
Well, I think as focused as I was, I learned kind of like you. I mean, maybe something specific will come to mind, but working with luminaries at a very young age, I just had a perspective from the get-go that I didn't have all the answers. You know, some people when they're young, they think they know everything. I was like, I don't know shit.
Oh, no, but you thought you knew everything.
No, I knew I had some gifts. I knew I had some tools to get me to where I was bound and determined to go. That's not what I'm saying.
But weren't we all very cocky when we're young? Isn't that part of being young, just to think that you know everything? And when somebody gives you advice, you're like,
yeah, but
I know better.
You can be cocky and still receptive to noticing how somebody
yes.
behaves, how somebody handled that situation, how we like, oh, wow, if nothing else, that's how I never want to be.
Yeah. And that's getting harder and harder to do right now, because I think that the younger generation is really, even if they are very observant, they're mostly seeing what people want them to see. You're not really experiencing things.
It's mostly a facade.
Personally, where you get to see people when they don't know you're watching.
Right.
And that's really important. That's when you really learn from people, by observing them when they don't know you're watching. And I was always watching.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I don't know that I would say I've learned, because I learned it really from my parents, particularly my father. Even though it was the music business and he was in the music business in a different way than I ended up being, his sense of professionalism and being on time, being respectful of other people's time, and being always prepared was something that I grew up in, this shadow of that. I never, ever saw my father go, oh, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing, or I didn't prepare for this, or I flaked, or it didn't exist. And so there was an expectation on me that I would not do that. And so I have a bazillion faults, but one of them is not that I flake on you, or I don't show up, or I show up, I wander in whenever, like that's still, and that's a thing that to our generation, that sounds like that's just the way you were always supposed to be.
Did your dad relax and enjoy himself a lot, or was he a workaholic?
He hardly ever relaxed and enjoyed himself.
Huh.
Very rarely. Oh, really? You're going to do the wife? Really?
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay, I'm never having you back on again.
Okay.
You know this. My dad was
shucks.
my dad was very type A, and he was it was an influence, I'm sure. The only time he ever relaxed was when we went to this cabin we had in Wisconsin.
Beautiful cabin.
And it was the only place that he sort of shut it off, but he went once every year maybe.
So where do you turn everything off?
I'm way better now than I've ever been.
Yeah. Well, when I met you, you didn't know how to relax.
But in fairness, my father, lived long enough to tell me that he saw how I was enjoying my life in a different way than he had. And he respected it. And he said, I'm glad you take more time to do that. Or I'm glad you have that interest. Or I'm glad you're more present with your kids than I was with you. That kind of, I was 33 when he died. And so he saw my career explode and get married and have kids. And he spotted the differences between us very quickly. But there is, of course, there's a big part of me that is like that. But my point was, the generation that we come from, that wasn't unique. Most people had to be like prompt and respectful and prepared, and now anything goes. So don't you think that that's a big factor in what annoys us now? Going through life?
I think we have become, reluctantly, the old people who just bitch on the younger generation. Like, I can admit that. But I also, in fairness, I also see all the great things that the younger generation are doing.
Like what?
Well,
Name one.
Well, I like the attitude of the younger generation, where they have an attitude that, no, you don't have to slave every day for somebody else. You don't have to work a 9 to 5 every day doing something that you hate in order to make a living. That's definitely not from our generation. That doesn't come from our generation. And I like that the younger generation has more individuality. Like they decide how it is that they want to live their life, and they decide that they want to experience the world, or that they want to travel, or that they don't, and they just want to stay at home. Like they're kind of picking and choosing how they want to live. Where when we were younger, we kind of had to do what was expected of us, and everybody kind of did the same thing. And if you decided to take a different route than the norm, you were considered, a rebel, or he doesn't know what he's doing, or who does she think she is, and it's much more accepted. I like that the younger generation kind of makes their own path. They choose how they want to live. Like with every young generation, it's not always the correct path, but they're more open to doing things their way, to living life on their own terms. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's very cool.
I've noticed something about you, and I don't know if I've ever verbalized it quite this way, but I've noticed, and even probably before me, that you've taken on a mentoring role with certain young women. Mm-hmm. Daughters of friends. Mm-hmm. Even in the case of a couple of the young ladies who were involved with my sons. What is that something that you actively pursue, number one? Number two, what do you think your batting average is in terms of what they take in and get and adapt to their own lives versus it just goes in one ear and out the other?
That's a good question. I don't set out to do that. I think that I love hanging out with younger women in their 20s and in their 30s who are smart, who are doing something interesting. I want to know what it's like to be in your 20s and in your 30s today, because I remember what it was like when I was. And, there's so many really cool, smart young women who are doing brilliant things, and I want to learn from them. I want to learn the difference between their life now versus my life when I was their age. And I think that those young women are also very open to hearing anecdotes about life and to hearing about my experience, because I also haven't lived a boring life. Mm-mm. So I have a lot of experience and a lot of really cool stories. And within that, I think that a lot of the young women who I talk to recognize something. And I do think that a lot of them they're not like, oh, that's great advice and I'm going to take it, because when you're young, you just don't. But I think that a lot of the things and a lot of our conversations will resonate as they get older, and they may make more sense as they get older. But I think that we both, the younger women and I also, we get a lot from each other. I love learning what it's like for them now. And there are a lot of similarities, but there are also a lot of
one of the things that I've watched you do consistently, based upon your own experience at that age when you were young, like in your 20s, mm-hmm. You try to, without ever shitting on being madly in love or being devoted to someone, I've heard you say, listen, if you're in a relationship, you're dating somebody, like, keep your own identity. Make sure that, I know that, and I hope you'll kind of elaborate a little bit on it. It's really based upon maybe a couple, but one particular period of your life where you were in a relationship with someone who was very successful. And even then, you had the presence of mind to not go, oh, I want to really maintain this so that I can benefit from this relationship and what he has. But instead, you were like, I want that for myself.
Yes. So I did learn a lot from, well, not just the person who I was seeing at the time, but I was at a point, I was working at MTV at that time and traveling the world and really spending time with a lot of very successful people. So I was able to see how people lived.
Right.
And so rather than wanting to cling on to someone because I wanted their life and be a part of their life, I was picking and choosing and learning about how everybody lived.
You're curating.
The things that they did right. I was noticing all the things that they did right that I wanted to implement or that I thought would work for me. And I was also noticing the things that they did wrong that I should watch out for. Mm-hmm. So again, I think that just comes from me being very observant and really learning from, I love learning from people. I love watching people. So if you're around me and you think I'm doing something and not paying attention, I am 100% paying attention to every little thing that everybody is doing.
I know.
All right, relax.
No, but I think that, and you're very gentle about it, but I've heard you, especially when you're sitting with some young woman who is all about her boyfriend. And you're taking it and you're like, yeah, that's great. But and you sort of throw in the...
Well, I think it's very important to remind people, and this is something that, it's a mistake I made. So it's very important to remind women of their independence and to not give up your life in order to be a part of somebody else's life. I think that a lot of times we meet someone and then that person is attracted to us because of all the things that we have going on or because of how we think or the things that we like to do. Then you start falling in love with that person and you start becoming all about that person. Yeah. And then you're no longer that person that they fell in love with. You're not doing any of those things. You don't have any of those conversations and you get fully involved in the other person's life. And I think that that's a trap. I think that that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Not just for the relationship, but for your own individuality and your own personality.
Well, it's connected to, in a way, it's connected to when we decided to get married after a couple of years of seeing each other. We realized that we were making this decision for very different reasons than most people do, in that it was completely absent of motive or agenda.
Yeah, or necessity or anything.
Because when I met you, you were in your still mid-40s, but you'd had a full life. You were independently wealthy, successful, didn't need anything. You didn't need to be taken care of. You didn't need to have someone so that you could have a family or to take care of you financially, or you had carved out a life for yourself that was completely independent and happy and fulfilled. So that, and this also, we've talked about this, but it also created a little bit of a toughness and a bit of a wall where you're like, I've got everything I need. So if I'm going to let you in, you better be added value in some way.
But I think that should be the case for anyone.
Yeah.
Like, why would anybody want to downgrade their life?
There's the soundbite. By the way, mark that. There's the promo soundbite right there.
Why do you want to downgrade your life for anyone? There's no need for that.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. Like, you should both be able to lift each other up a little bit in some area. And your life should either be comfortable, great, the way you like it, and remain that way, or it should be elevated by the person that you're bringing into your life. I don't see the point of your life suffering, for the sake of being with someone.
Well, it's like tell the classic quote. When you were dating, like right around when you met me, you'd been dating for a couple of years, you'd been single, and you had a mantra about men and relationships, which was?
You can come into my life.
I'm open. Yeah.
Yeah. You can come into my life. You can leave. But just don't block the fucking door. So a lot of people like to do that. A lot of people like to just I don't want you, but I don't want anybody else to want you. And I don't even know. I kind of want you sometimes and I don't, but I'm just going to screw with you. And I'm just going to kind of block your life. And you need to get rid of those people. That is never okay.
Yeah. What's your favorite stuff? I'm going to use the word stuff. What's your favorite stuff about our life together? And what's your least favorite stuff about our life together?
I think my favorite part is the way we love our family. the way we want, to include our family into everything.
And we're so lucky that our family.
Yeah, you love my family. I love your family.
So lucky. I think it's rare.
It is rare.
It's without dysfunction.
It's rare, and also for those who are dating and younger and think that they can work around it, I say it's a huge red flag. Huge red flag when you hate the other person's family, or when the other person has conflict with their family. If you think you're gonna be the one to work that out and it's just gonna get worse, and you're gonna be in the middle of it. So it's so important to rethink all these things and to really get a hold of that when you can, because it gets more difficult. So the fact that we were both at a point in our lives where we really didn't need to cater to each other's families. Like, my parents were older, I was older, your kids were grown, they didn't need a stepmother. It flowed. And we all understood that. And we were all kind of not trying to make anybody miserable. And that's important. That it so often isn't like that.
Oh, but it went way beyond that, because the experience that we've had, I would say the exact same thing. It's my favorite thing about our union, really, other than my own personal happiness, is having a new family, and a family I just so enjoy spending time with, and seeing how my sons have benefited from their relationship with you and your family.
I also really love your career and your passion for your career. I'm at a point where, even though I'm still very actively involved in my brand, and I love trying to grow the business and trying to see if there's another version of that business that I can do, I do enjoy that, only because I like challenging myself. I am, for the most part, I do consider myself semi-retired, where I think it's because I worked all my life that by the time you and I got married, I was so happy to be Mrs. Marx. I was so happy to just travel with you, that I had the possibility that I'm not tied down to some job that I need, where we spend so much time apart because you're touring and I have to do some shitty job that I don't like.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that I can be semi-retired, that I don't have to take jobs that I'm not passionate about, and I can spend more time with you. So I love how we travel the world together. I love how I'm still seeing you grow your career and really settle into being the icon and the legend that you are, and that you've worked so hard for decades to become.
That's actually the soundbite.
And I love being the person that reminds you of that, because you were not aware of that when I met you.
I've never known anybody who's inspired that in me and placed so much importance on it to me to remember. It's a balance, because you don't want to be walking around going like, well, my wife says I'm a legend.
I'm not the only one.
No. But your belief and your respect for what I have done and continue to do is so important to me.
It is. I think it's important for every couple to cheer each other on.
Yeah. And you know what? Let's speak to this for a second, because I understand how you say you're semi-retired, but not because you really want to be. It's nice that, as you just pointed out, it gives you time to be with me on the road, and so we don't have a lot of distance from each other. But I also know that you would like to be busier. Yeah. And like the rules of the game when it comes to being a woman in this town in television is really different, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't have many choices. I don't have many choices right now. And there are things that I love doing in the entertainment industry. I love television. I love being a part of a team, of a production team, but I also like being in front of the camera. Yeah. I love helping run a show from this side and from that side. And because I am a woman in my late 50s, there is no interest in that. There's no interest in that. So unless I really, really fight to get some project that I am particularly passionate about on the air, which may or may not go. And the only way that it may go is if I fund it myself. And the truth is that I am not that passionate about getting any project going. As much as I would love to be a part of something, and I would love to have those offers and those opportunities for me to participate in things, I've been doing that all my life.
Yeah. Well, it's not only that. Let's talk about why, because it's an important...
Oh, yeah, just the fact that I'm an older woman.
No. Why you say, I'm paraphrasing what you're saying, but you want to do more, but you're also not going to just do stuff to do stuff.
It. Yeah.
Because you're lucky enough to be at a place in your life where you don't have to.
Yes, but also I no longer have anything to prove to anyone.
Right, which is great.
So I really, like I said, I still want to be challenged on the business side. I still want to have a good business. I still want it to be successful. So that's something else that I fell into that wasn't my passion. I wasn't a business person. I still don't consider myself the savviest business person. I surround myself with people who really are very good, who can teach me and who I can trust and who I can learn from.
It was, whether you want to admit it or not, it was incredibly savvy, especially at the time that we're talking about, for you to be approached to do a lifestyle brand and sign up to sell things at a time when celebrities were like, oh, no.
Yeah, they didn't want to be associated with it. I
don't want to be associated with branding. Or anything. It was like the word didn't even really exist at that point.
It really was the wild,
wild west. For you to go, no, that's
west.
interesting. Yeah, what would we do? And now here we are, 20, how many years?
25 years later.
Daisy, one of the longest running celebrity brands in history.
Yes.
And it's still kicking ass.
It's still doing really well. And
you take me to dinner more often than I take you.
Well, let's change that. What's wrong with that? Everything. You're taking me out to dinner tonight.
I am. We're so fortunate that we both have, we've both been blessed in our businesses.
I do wish it was different for women in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And I do get that it really is about the new, younger, fresher people. I love seeing new talent, and I don't want to compete with the 25-year-old who is hosting some new show. But I do think that there are many women who are my contemporaries who are very good at what they do, who have a lot to offer still and have so much more to say than we did 15, 20 years ago.
Who do you see out there who you think is worth listening to?
Our friend Katie Couric, I think, is wonderful. I think it's great to hear her talk. I think our friend Heather Dubrow is very smart and has a really cool perspective, and she should be heard more. I know she has her podcast and she gets, her words in, but...
What about younger?
Oh, younger.
Who's on the scene that you see, who you see and you go, she's I'm interested in what she has to say and she's doing it right. Is there anybody?
Yeah, there are a lot. There are a lot of younger women. Mindy Kaling is one who I always love to hear her talk. Oh gosh, I am forgetting names. I love Dakota Johnson.
Yeah.
I think she's funny with her own personality and her own vibe. I think that there are many young women that I really always stop and listen to, because they're either funny or smart or both. So yeah, there are a lot of young women who are trailblazers in their own right.
Yeah, it's hard. I know we're constantly looking for new people to inspire us.
They're everywhere if you just look.
100%, I agree. And one of the things that I suffer from that you don't, which I admire about you, is, and this kind of harks back to what we were talking about a little while ago, but when you do a deep dive into peacefulness, when you do a deep dive into lessening your suffering, when you do a deep dive into who you really are, what makes you tick, what is working for you, what is not working for you, and you really go and you live your life kind of on a daily basis, collecting practices. In our case, we did a lot of that together. You were already on a path. I was on a path, but in a different way, I guess. And also I was allowing myself to be distracted by writing songs and doing shows and being like, yeah, I'll deal with that. I'll deal with myself later, you know? But then when you and I were together, I knew that there were a lot of things that I needed to get to the bottom of, right? And so I think you would agree that for a period of several years, I was all about it. And then I learned so much. And then I started to feel like the sound bites were repetitive.
Yeah.
And then there was a new person on the scene, whether it's on social media or just on a lecture tour or these teachers. And I'd be like, oh, and I'd listen and I'd go, I know all that. And one of the things that I really love and admire about you is you'll say, even if they're saying the same thing that I already know, maybe they're going to say one little thing that's a little extra, or it's just a reminder. I got to the point where I felt like, not like I know it all, or not remotely, but I've become someone who is much harder to impress with knowledge about that. Well,
topic. I'm not looking for somebody to impress me. I am not looking for somebody to give me this light bulb moment. I am not looking for a miracle.
I want all those things. I'm looking for all of those.
Yes, we all want all those things, but you are the one who decides whether something that you have already heard is going to land differently this time.
And sometimes it does, but it's rare.
And a lot of times it does. Sometimes you hear things again because they're going to land differently. Sometimes you read a book and the chapters that you disregarded the first time are the ones that are speaking to you now.
Right.
So when it comes to self-improvement, it is not about finding a guru, because nobody's a guru. And all these people who are speaking about like how to suffer less, how to be more enlightened, those people are also suffering and they're going through their own shit.
Exactly.
And they don't have it right. And there's a big difference between giving out the advice, and I can tell somebody what they have to do all day long. I have a really hard time doing it myself, and I'm still going to fail sometimes, but I can still say the right things.
Yeah.
And I think that we put way too much pressure and importance on these people who have spent a lifetime, studying certain subjects. And we want them to just give us the key, and we want them to solve everything, and they're not going to. Only you can do that.
Well, but to me, and we've talked about this so many times, I believe that at the heart of it all is... So my guru is James Allen, who wrote As a Man Thinketh in 1906. And I have no idea whether James Allen practiced what he preached, whether he was successful at a healthy and happy life because of his thinking. If we've learned nothing else in the time we've known each other, the quality of your life is based strictly on the quality of your thoughts.
100%.
So wouldn't you say that the heart of everything that we're talking about,
yes,
these people who pop up on YouTube and people we really love and listen to and have podcasts where millions and millions of people are listening, it really all boils down to, how do you think? How do you think? What's the quality of your thinking about yourself and your life? So isn't it really just about that?
It goes back to this quote that I heard a long time ago where I'm forgetting exactly how it goes, but I've never met a beautiful, attractive person who had horrible, hateful thoughts. The same way it works the other way.
Yeah.
You can be not the most attractive person in the room, but if you think beautiful things and you're a happy person and your energy is great, you're going to be much more attractive than any hot girl. You know what I mean? And than any handsome, hot guy. That's the energy that people are drawn to, and it's really what you think. And that is you can spend all the money on all the surgeries and all the designer clothes and the perfect makeup with the perfect hair. But if you're an ugly bitch in here, that's not going to go far. That's 100%. And if I've learned anything in my many years of life, that's accurate always.
This is one of those questions that's tricky, but I'm going to make you answer. You have to pick someone.
I don't have to do anything.
Yes,
you can't make me do anything that I don't want to do.
Just now, or I'll take away the 1942.
I bought it.
True. If you had to trade lives, take me out of the equation, your family, whatever. If you had to step into somebody else's life, someone who exists now or in the past, who's your choice?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know. I might want to be royalty.
I knew you were going to say that.
You didn't know.
I knew you were going to say that.
You don't know anything.
Can you be specific? Do you think actually it's a little bit of a cop-out to pick somebody who's long gone because we'll never know what their real lives were like, but you have this thing with the royals and royalty. And we were just in London, and I got to tell you, it was so sweet and cute because there are very few things you get kind of girly excited about.
Yeah.
And at first I was kind of like, it's cold. It's like, it was kind of shitty weather. And you were like, I want to walk down to this and we'll go to the mall. And then I was like, oh my God.
Not the mall, like the mall that leads to the palace.
Yeah,
which is what that street is called. That mall. Not like,
And I caught myself because at first I was like, oh my God, really? Are we going to, because we've been to London several times together.
Yeah.
And then I saw that you were just so, you just wanted to go and look at the buildings and you wanted to, and I was like.
There's so much history.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Every little old dark alley has an entire story to it. Every time I turn that corner and see Big Ben, it's like, oh, it's Big Ben. It's like, I didn't know it was going to be there. I've seen it a million times. Westminster. Oh my God, all the weddings and all the history and everything that went on in there. And I just love the history of it. You can feel the energy. And not that I put anything into the royals and royal families and all that stuff. But
so you're not going to switch places with Meghan Markle? You're not jealous of Meghan
Only
Markle?
if you switched with Harry. Oh my God, we could fucking kill it.
We could.
Like, we would have never left the palace.
No, I don't think we would. Well, you wouldn't have allowed it.
No.
You would have been like, why do we want to leave this shit?
Yes, we would have convinced William.
Because your perception of it is what it is.
That we were going to be the next
But the reality of it
heirs.
might be an entirely different thing.
Yes. But
I
who's
think
talking about that? We're talking about the fantasy of it all.
Yeah.
I love how they have kept the traditions alive through history. That's a really hard thing to do, especially with younger generations. And that's why I was kind of like, not that I care, but I was like, with Harry and Meghan, like, what? It doesn't ultimately matter because they weren't the next up for the throne. Yeah. But everyone who has been next up for the throne has taken that responsibility serious. And even though they don't really have a lot to do, they don't have anything to do with politics, they do keep their traditions going. And they are a representation of their people. I like the history of it. I like the tradition of it. I like the formality of it.
Okay, so I don't give a shit about almost all of that.
No, I don't give a shit either, but I like it.
But I'll tell you where we connect almost, in the one way we connect. Because even though there are, I'm sure some people watching this who maybe do know the ins and outs of it are like, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
I know.
The royal family are this and they're all these bad things. However,
of course, but we would be different.
I'm ignorant of that. But I really have no interest in that part of the history of it. What I do connect with is the perceived, at least, elegance of it. And
I love
there's
elegance.
There's so little elegance in anything anymore.
Yeah.
So that when you see the royal family, they are always presenting in a certain way that is elegant, that is like demanding of the title. And there's the there's the atmosphere, the
ceremony of it all.
Ceremony. There's another word I'm looking for. It's not accoutrement, but it's like it's almost like what I love about.
Yeah, about making a cocktail and about.
Like no disrespect to like if we do a hike, I'm happy to grab a cold beer out of the bottle. That's no. But if we're gonna sit down, I want to have. I love beautiful barware and the ceremony of. So that I relate to the Royals in that way. Like I bet that would be fun and having like ding 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 and
like keeping some traditions alive. Like one of my pet peeves is when I ask for a tea and they bring me some ugly mug or some plastic cup with the tea bag in it and some half cold thing of water, or even worse, just everything in a plastic cup with the tea bag in there. And it's just, the whole thing about having a cup of tea is sitting down with a nice, beautiful cup and the thing and the teacup and having, and the ceremony of it all. And that has been so lost. Yeah. Like how many times do you and I say, oh, let's go out for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea? And we cannot find a place where you can sit down and drink your coffee or your tea out of anything other than a plastic cup.
I'm totally with you, but I believe that that is the epitome of generational. I don't think there's anybody 25 who gives the slightest fuck.
Well,
in fact, they'd be like, "What? No, just put it in I gotta go."
I know, but it's also.
I want to just sit with my phone and scroll while I don't
know, because there are places where you go to Europe and you can still find.
That's cultural. That's a
cultural thing. So yes, a lot of Europe has learned our bad habits, and there's a lot of those coffee shops, but there are also places where you can sit down and still have a beautiful presentation, even in a very casual setting. And you can sit and talk with somebody over some, I don't know. It's just, it's all been lost. I love the ceremony. I like the tradition of something.
But what I love is that you are much more than me. I'm good at it, but you are expert at it. You bring that elegance and that God, what's the word? You bring that into everything that we do, even when we're in some awesomeness for sure, sexiness. You bring that into wherever we are,
really,
even if we're in some little town.
I love that you notice that.
Of course, I notice it.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, I think life is made up of those little moments and the little details, and there are some things that shouldn't be lost, and
But you learned along the way before I met you, that these things that you enjoy, that really make your life happier. Mm-hmm. And so you, even in a place where it doesn't exist, you somehow bring it. You know what I mean?
We all can bring a little bit of the things that you like into your environment. I've always been a huge believer that it doesn't matter what you have or what you don't have,
Aesthetic, that's the word I was looking for.
The aesthetic, yeah. So I know that if I wasn't fortunate enough to have worked really hard and be comfortable enough to have luxuries in my life, if I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment anywhere, I would make that 1-bedroom apartment be exactly what I wanted it to be. And it would have a sense of glamour and elegance and a sense of all the little things
The things that you love.
The things that you love.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to find out some of those things. Don't just disregard everything because maybe you can't afford a lot of the things. It's never been easier to create an environment, to dress a certain way, even if you can't afford the high-end designer things. It's never been easier to create an aesthetic and to create the life that you want under any budget.
Well, this was fun. I hope you'll come back again sometime.
Maybe. Talk to my publicist. We'll see what happens.
Maybe we'll go to dinner now, finish our tequila and then go have a little dinner.
I'm busy tonight.
Oh. Thank you, baby.
This was fun. You're good at this.
I love it.
Yeah, you should do more of it.
Oh, I will.
We still got
it. Almost forgot. I think you know this. I always give my guest, a piece of vinyl.
Yes.
I handpick it. I think, what could I give this person? Because not everybody's into vinyl. I'm way into vinyl, as you know. I don't think you were really, you don't give a shit about vinyl, right?
No, well, I mean, I had no choice because I lived at a time where that's what I
Right.
I mean, so
I know
to
that
me, it's not so much something special. It's just like, oh yeah, that's the shit I did when I was young.
Right. So I really, really thought long and hard, and I came up with what I think is the perfect piece of vinyl.
I love this one.
Are you ready?
Yes. Oh my God.
Yes, my third album on vinyl.
Oh.
Look at that.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know you would cherish it. It's even they gave it to me for free. It's a demo copy, promo copy.
That's awesome. Thank you. It means so much. I will cherish it.
Mm-hmm. And you'll put it right back in the garage where I got it.
Probably. See, you didn't really think this through.
I really did. I thought it'd be funny.
No, you didn't think it through.
I really did. I don't have.
Okay, if it wasn't. Okay.
I know, I thought about it.
Right. Okay, so if it wasn't this, which is obviously what I should have.
Yes.
Right. If it wasn't this, because I already have the real thing.
Yes.
Right. Which one would you give me?
I was torn between George Michael's Faith.
Oh, yes.
And an In Excess album.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
My first...
If Michael Hutchence had made a solo album, it would have been that, because she was mad for Michael Hutchence.
Oh, who wasn't? He was so hot. But also, my first real vinyl record that I was obsessed with, that it was kind of like a triple, like we just folded out into like...
Yeah.
This massive... And I read it, and I would listen to it and read all the things and read all the words and saw all the
Meatloaf.
Grease.
Oh, Grease.
Grease.
Same era, by the way.
Yes.
Right, the Grease soundtrack.
That Grease album that folded out.
A little peek behind the curtain. We did karaoke night on last New Year's Eve. Or no, Christmas.
No, my birthday.
Oh, for your birthday, that's right. We actually had a karaoke night here, and you and your sister busted out Summer Nights.
Yes.
So you're a real Grease girl, so shit.
I really am. That was my first real obsession. Well, that and Saturday Night Fever.
Right.
Yeah. I was obsessed with
That's
John
what
Travolta.
I would have gone with, but then I thought it would be cheeky and funny for me to give you one of my albums.
This is all I want. This is all I ever need.
Hey, you got him.
I want every endless summer night to be with you.
Nice.
I will always be right here waiting for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It don't mean nothing without you.
Oh, well, if you didn't feel that way, you should have known better.
We're done here.
Yeah.
I need another tequila.